I just like the sound of it. I just like the sound of it.
Oh, look at that. I'm sorry, folks. We're on a delay. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Multicast. That's right. Not only can you find us, so you can also find us now on the Cold Front Report Facebook page. Jeff Uvino. Jeff, how you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great, Clayton. It's Victory Tuesday, technically, I believe. How are you?
Oh, it's a Victory Tuesday, that's for sure. That was definitely one of the most exciting performances by this Bills offense that we've seen in quite a while. Let's let a few people here in the feel free to ask your comments, questions, and concerns throughout the duration of the show. Jeff and I will pick out a few questions here in the end, toward the end of the show, and we'll get to that. But nonetheless, the Bills did have an excellent performance this week against the Miami Dolphins, a 31-28 victory in which we saw Josh Allen pass for yards, 300 yards in consecutive games, the first time since 2002 for a Bills quarterback, and now 400 yards for the first time. Oof, what is that? 2002. I believe it was the same season, week 5, the last time when Drew Bledsoe threw for 405 yards. That's the Raiders. Jeff, what'd you think of that performance by Josh Allen?
I mean, you and I both know the story of the game. Josh Allen had the best game of his career so far. That's really the main thing. He threw the ball all over the Miami secondary, and he didn't turn it over. And you and I can agree that that was a beautiful thing to see.
Oh, yeah. It was honestly, I surprised that this was the game plan and that it was executed in the way that it was? Kinda. Now, it didn't really work the way it did the week before, where they didn't run the ball until the second half, it felt like. But they were feeding Devin Singletary and Zach Moss there in the first half. And the running game was working with some efficiency, yet they just turned away from it. They turned away from it, and they started letting Allen air it out there in the first half. He had 249 passing yards in the first half, the most by a Bills quarterback since 2000. So he's breaking all sorts of records in this Miami game, just doing what he does against the Dolphins, just the Dolphin slayer. So 249 yards in the first half. Devin Singletary finished the game with 5.6 yards per carry. I thought this was overall probably one of the best performances for this Bills offense in some time, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it was a balanced attack as well. I mean, you touched on it last week. The Bills didn't give Singletary or Zach Moss a carry until almost the second half, and then they ran the ball right at the Dolphins to start off the game with Singletary, and they kind of set a precedent with that they're going to be able to run the ball. And then obviously Allen opened it up, and Brian Dable went back to the more pass-oriented offense that we saw in week 1 against the Jets. But really two-dimensional, and you and I have talked about this before. Josh Allen's legs, it almost makes the offense three-dimensional, and it was just an all-out attack. I mean, I don't know the exact number of yards that the Bills offense gained on the day, but it was a lot when you have 417 yards in the air, and then your RB1 is averaging 5.6 yards per carry.
Yeah, definitely. The one thing that I can't go without mentioning was the abandonment of the offense in the third quarter. And I kind of felt like, I don't know about you, Jeff, I haven't talked to you about this yet, but I kind of felt like there in that third quarter, that was less on the Bills offense than it was on the Bills defense. Now, might I mind you, the Bills didn't have two of their best players on that defense, with Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano being out for this game. So Ryan Fitzpatrick really just picked on it there in that second half after that weird halftime period. And then you had the rain delay where you came back after what I believe it was 30-minute rain delay. They came back around 3:20 with 30, not even 30 seconds off the clock in the second half. And Ryan Fitzpatrick was just picking on the middle of the field, specifically Levi Wallace. We'll get into Levi Wallace, but the missing Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano there in the middle of that defense, you could definitely tell that those two players were sorely missed on that side of the ball. Ryan Fitzpatrick really exploited it. And I kind of felt like the Bills offense didn't really have a chance to succeed there in the second half, or in the third quarter, I should say. They got the ball back at their own half-yard line. And, well, it wasn't their own half-yard line. It was the 2-yard line. And then after the false start penalty, it was their half-yard line. So that offense only had 2 possessions in the second half, or in the third quarter, one starting at their own half-yard line. I felt like the Dolphins offense really dictating the flow of the game, if you will, was more so the reasoning behind the Bills defense, or the Bills offense, just being gone in the third quarter. And, typically I'm the one saying that the Bills offensive play calling is putrid in the third quarter. And that's typically why you don't see the offense produce in that part of the game. But this time around, it was more so because of the Miami Dolphins offense dictating the flow of the game, controlling the clock, had any sort of control in the game. So I felt like that was more so on the defense. I'm not really worried about the offense not having any third quarter production in this game, or I'm not nearly as worried as compared to weeks past. Jeff, what did you think of the Bills offense in the third quarter? Did you feel like that was more so on the defense, or did you feel like that the Bills offense has issues in the third quarter that need to be ironed out?
I think that coming out of the rain delay, the biggest thing was the Miami Dolphins offense had a surge. And I think there were several reasons that caused that surge. The first being, all game long, the absence of Edmonds and Milano was obvious. It was obvious. Mike Gesicki, the Dolphins tight end, was a matchup nightmare for the Bills. And if you have Edmonds and Milano on the field, especially Milano, we know how he can cover in the passing game. We'll be able to take away some of the burden off the secondary and covering those guys. You had Levi Wallace covering Mike Gesicki, an obvious mismatch, and Ryan Fitzpatrick. He's a smart veteran NFL quarterback. He's going to take advantage of that all day. Now, mixing some other things, not a great day for the secondary. As you said, we'll talk about Levi Wallace, but I thought Trey White did not have a great game. Now, he got beat on a couple really good passes by Fitzpatrick, but still, if he makes those plays, then Miami wouldn't have had some of the bigger plays that they did. We can talk about the score. Buffalo gave up a garbage time touchdown, which didn't really matter that much, unless you had the Bills as 5-point favorites in the game. The Dolphins covered that. But really, I think that third quarter was just caused by the perfect storm coming together to give the Dolphins some momentum that they really lacked in the first half when Allen was throwing the ball all over the field.
Yeah. And if I felt like it was an overall porous day for that defense as a whole. I feel like missing Milano and Edmonds in the middle really kind of just affected every level of that defense. As you talked about, even Tre'Davious White didn't have his best performance against the Dolphins this past week. And I really felt like there was only one bright spot of that defense, and that was linebacker Terrell Dotson. And Terrell Dotson, he had one hell of a game. He looked like he was flying all over the field, sideline to sideline, making plays in the backfield, in the secondary and coverage. He was, without a doubt, in my opinion, the best defensive player on that defense this past week. And I also felt like the defensive line, They were doing a good job trying to contain the Dolphins' rushing attack. Then again, the Dolphins weren't really in a situation to be running the ball there in the second half. But I really felt like Terrell Dotson really kind of showed himself out this week, really kind of proved to everybody that if one of those linebackers were to go down, it just so happened that both of them went down in the first game, Milano and Edmonds, that is. If, say, just one of those linebackers were to go down, he is a serviceable replacement for one of those linebackers. I think he's the third best linebacker on this team. He definitely had a lot to prove going into this season, and I feel like he definitely proved himself in his first opportunity to start in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought that Dodson stepped up, and I thought some other guys stepped up. Now, I will say the Bills' offense made it easier on the defense by making Miami one-dimensional. As you said, they weren't really in a position where they could run the ball because they had to put points on the board fast, and they had to put a lot of them up. So that definitely helped the defense. And, obviously you don't want to give up 28 points to a team like Miami, but it just goes to show how important your key defensive players are. I mean, if there was ever a doubt in our minds before this week how much Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmonds meant in the middle of that defense, then that's gone. And I'll ask, this is a question I have for you going into tonight's show. Now, we had the weather delay, obviously something that doesn't happen in most NFL games. And now, am I crazy for thinking that the delay could have kept the game close? I mean, you have to sit in the locker room for what I thought it was closer to 45 minutes. It seemed like a really long time. I know that you had the 15-minute halftime, and then you're in there for a lot longer. And it's almost like starting the game over again because you're not fresh. You get cold sitting in the locker room, and it has to impact your team. And it leaves all of the game's momentum up in the air for either team to grab. So,
see, I think you just said it. It leaves all of the momentum up in the air. And that being said, it's up for taking. So the Bills had the momentum going into halftime, I believe. And that's really an opportunity that either the Dolphins were going to take and run with and come back in that game, and they did. They went ahead. They took a lead in this game and go at the late stages of the third quarter and then heading into the fourth. And then Josh Allen hit. I believe that's when they scored a touchdown to take the lead, or reclaim the lead, I should say. But I felt like that was a real opportunity for the Dolphins to swing this game into their direction. And I felt like the methodical drives by Fitzpatrick, targeting the missing the two linebackers, as well as Levi Wallace, who had a very bad performance, as I just said. I felt like the accumulation of those things and having a veteran quarterback back there who he's smart. He went to Harvard. He's played in the league for 16, 17 years. He's seen everything any defense has to throw at him in this league. Ryan Fitzpatrick, as much of an erratic passer as he is, if you will, he is definitely one of the smartest and intellectual quarterbacks you will find in any quarterback room throughout the NFL. So I felt like it was very methodical, it was very deliberate, the way they were attacking the Bills defense, as well as just attacking Levi Wallace. So yes, I felt like that was an opportunity. I felt like that rain delay could have definitely swung the momentum in Miami's direction. I felt like it did in a way because they came out there firing on all cylinders, and the Bills defense looked very, very casual out there. They didn't look like they had much of an intimidating factor to them in that second half. So with that being said, I felt like this was Josh Allen's game to win. I felt like with the flow of the game and the way the game was going and how the defense was playing just porous football, they weren't playing up to their standards that they do on a typical week-to-week basis. Josh Allen had to step up. He had to. It was up to him. The game was put on his shoulders. Another fourth-quarter comeback, if you want to call it a fourth-quarter comeback, that's technically what it is by the definition. But I mean, he came back. He reclaimed the lead there in the fourth quarter. He took the Bills down on a drive, and he hit John Brown for a touchdown. What much more can you ask for Josh Allen in this game? 24 for 35, 407 passing. You guys can see the stats. His seventh fourth-quarter comeback in 3 seasons. That was one hell of a game for Josh Allen. And don't get me wrong, that drive could have never happened, and he could have had a 100 passing performance and what have you, and I wouldn't say the same thing. But you watch Josh Allen do what Josh Allen has done 6 other times since he's come to Buffalo. The defense has a lapse. The defense it fails on an execution, and he goes out there. He scores a game-leading drive, or he runs a game-leading drive, and the Bills reclaim the lead and end up with a victory. So, to be quite honest with you, a lot of people, I was on Twitter. Of course, I'm on Twitter during the game. Where else would I be? So I'm on Twitter, and everybody's freaking out because the Dolphins just took a lead, and the Bills are supposed to be Super Bowl contenders, and everyone thinks the Dolphins are dog shit like usual. They're not. That's a talented squad. I'm not going to – I can sit here and I used to talk about the Dolphins the way I talk about the Jets now, but that Dolphins team, I like what they're doing. I like Brian Flores. I like the pieces he has on his defense. And with that being said, I was really surprised that Josh Allen had the day he did against the defense, because they're definitely an up in talent when comparing the Jets defense to the Dolphins defense. I mean, Byron Jones left the game early in the first quarter, but there was still a bunch of dudes over there. Kyle Van Noy, oh my gosh, Josh Allen, this man has a family. Let me find the clip for you real quick. He trucked him. I don't know how you leave this game, and I'm one of Brian Daboll's biggest critics. Regular listeners to this show, as well as this platform, the Cold Front Report, know that I'm one of Brian Daboll's biggest critics. And after this game, third quarter, I didn't care about the third quarter. I did not feel like it was on the offense, as I said earlier in the show. I felt like that was more so on the defense. And then that third quarter, and in this game, I felt like Brian Daboll coached one of his best games as a professional offensive coordinator. So my hat goes off to him. I gave him, slight complaints or criticism from the week prior with the quarterback running and whatnot. In this game, you didn't see Josh Allen run one design quarterback run. So it's interesting how they took a completely 180-degree turn after last week's performance when he had 12 carries in the first half.
The Bills came out of the locker room playing soft, or at least the Dolphins were playing harder, I thought. And as the Dolphins came back and took the lead, just like you said, Allen marched the Bills down the field and he went and won the football game. And that's what winning quarterbacks do. And that was something great to see. I mean, just Allen already getting that out of the way in week 2, that he can respond to adversity, that you can play from behind in a game that maybe you were supposed to win. And now it makes you start to think, maybe we're not going to win this game. He comes back, just those huge plays, just hitting huge plays that are so exciting as Bills fans, and he can do it with the big play in the air. He can lead a drive down the field, the choppy drive of 10 plays. And that's something that winning football teams do. Do you agree with me? It was impressive to see, especially on the road. And obviously it's not the same situation as it usually is being on the road. But you traveled 1,500 miles down the East Coast to play this game.
Well, I don't think there were many things out of the norm for the Bills going into Miami, considering there were 13,000 fans in the stadium. So I think it was
not as many Bills fans as usual.
It was a pretty much cut and dry day. Bills fans as usual in Hard Rock's exactly right. That's exactly right. And we can't talk about the prolific day for this Bills offense without talking about their leading receiver. How can you? How could you ever even think of doing something like that? Stefon Diggs, his best day as a Bills receiver, 2 games in, and it was one hell of a performance. 8 catches, 153 yards, a touchdown on 13 targets. I thought Stefon Diggs had the best receiving performance by a Bills wide receiver in recent memory, including every single game from John Brown last year. Stefon Diggs was a man possessed against the Miami Dolphins. You see that one play he made where he jumped over 2 defenders to make that play in an area where Josh Allen probably shouldn't have thrown that pass.
He should not have thrown that ball at all. Should have been intercepted.
But he did. He threw that pass because he was throwing it to Stefon Diggs. You think I don't think Allen throws that ball if it's to John Brown. I don't think Allen throws that ball if it's to Cole Beasley. I don't think Allen throws that ball to anyone in that room or anyone on that offense if it wasn't Stefon Diggs. And that goes to show you the confidence that Josh Allen has built up in Stefon Diggs. You watch Stefon Diggs go out there, and you watch the plays that he makes and the attitude, the swagger, the dog that this dude brings to the field. How can you not be confident? You see Stefon Diggs make that play. I'm sorry I don't have it for you, but he makes that play, and he gets up and he immediately starts talking his ish. Immediately. He gets up and he starts barking at the defender because he knows what he did. You don't think that resonates in the locker room? You don't think that spreads through the whole team? That's a boom. That's a shot of confidence right in the arm. That's a shot of confidence. That's a shot of momentum. That's a shot of adrenaline. And that's the kind of stuff that this Bills offense was really missing last year. And I feel like the addition of Stefon Diggs, not only this week did you see it really kind of in the morale department, you also saw it in the statistical production department. Not to say he didn't produce last week against the Jets. He had 8 catches for 86 yards. That was a solid day. But 8 catches for 153. Some of these connections that Josh Allen was making with Stephon Diggs in this game were unreal. Unreal. Rolling to his right, rolling to his left, hitting him with dimes almost every time, aside from the one miscue pass in the first quarter, on the first drive, I should say. Aside from that one pass, Josh Allen was money when he was going to Stephon Diggs. Money.
And Diggs was all over the field, and what a tremendous weapon to have. I mean, apart from his individual performance, he makes everybody on the offense, and especially the receiving core, better, because he takes away the top coverage from every single opposing team, every single team's top opposing cornerback, that he can compete with any cornerback in the league. But he makes John Brown better, and he makes Cole Beasley better. Cole Beasley wasn't featured that much in the Bills offense yesterday, but it seemed like every time they needed a big play, here comes Beasley. I think of the play, I think it was a crossing pattern. He was running from the bottom of your screen to the top of your screen, going to the right, down around the 15-yard line. He hadn't had a catch in over a quarter, because Allen was going to Diggs and Brown, and then Brown's not open. Here's your third option. And it just proves how deep the Bills receiving core is.
Yeah, you talk about this receiving core. I think you're really kind of just seeing the synergy that's starting to build throughout this offense. And it's a pleasant sight to see, considering the things that we had to endure last season throughout the slugfests, the constant 3-and-outs, the constant inability to convert on third down. It's no longer a problem. It's no longer a problem. You only have 2 new starters on that side of the ball, and one Stephon Diggs. And the other is Darrell Williams, who I thought had a great game again this week. So I was really impressed by Stephon Diggs. Jeff, who were your players of the game, offense, defense, real quick for the Bills?
Offense, it has to be Allen. I mean, he threw for 400 yards. First time that's happened in 18 years by a Bills quarterback. I said last week he was too good not to give him the player of the game, and I'm going to say the same exact thing this week, and I think you'll agree with me. And 4 touchdowns on top of that as well. And the play against Van Noy was tremendous. I mean, it's almost an afterthought in the 417-yard performance. The play that he made against Van Noy.
Yeah.
You're shaking your head at me. I'm really surprised you disagree, as your MVP candidate had the best game of his career.
Oh, goodness. Was I shaking my head at you? I don't think I was shaking my head at you. I was shaking my head. I was not shaking.
It appeared as if you were,
my earbud.
which I was in shock.
In shock that he put up that kind of performance. You know what?
No, that you would disagree with me.
No, I think here's the thing: is I'm gonna have to give Josh Allen Player of the Week because I agree with you. He was the best player on the team. He's Player of the Week. But here's the thing: is we're gonna get to a point where it's just like that. That is Josh Allen's award, and it's gonna make the reward redundant. So you can't really give it to Josh Allen every week because Josh Allen, I'm not going to say he should be winning it every week, but you kind of alluded to my opinion on Josh Allen being an MVP candidate. We're 2 weeks in, Jeff. Are you hopping on the train yet?
No. You can't say, okay. You can't say anybody's an MVP candidate 2 weeks into the year. They've played 2 freaking games. I mean,
I said it last August, though.
You did. Give me another month and maybe I'll be sold more. But it's been 2 games. I mean, I'm not going to discredit what he's done. He's beat 2 NFL teams, but I wouldn't call anybody an MVP candidate after 2 weeks for the simple fact that it's not enough sample size. I mean, I wouldn't even call Russell Wilson. Everybody's saying Russell Wilson is going to be the MVP this year. It's been 2 games. How can you say that? That's my stance. Maybe give him another month and I'll hop on the train with you, but I just don't think anybody should be an MVP front runner after 2 games because they could be a fluke. And I don't want to be the guy that says do it against a good team because that's the knee-jerk reaction right now. Let's see Allen do it against a better defense. He's beat 2 bad teams. I agree partially, but I'm not going to be the guy that defaults to that because you can't pick who you play. And he's played tremendously against who he's been given as opponents so far. But until we get a little more sample size, I'm going to have to reel you in, as I told you earlier in the week that I was going to.
Oh, see, this is the thing, is I'm in this position by default. Like, whether he sucks or whether he's great, I'm right here. Because I said this a long time ago. And the first time I said it on air was after the Houston game. And the first time I said it in general was last August. So I don't know. I like to clear the air on that, so we can just throw that out there. I'll pull the clip. I'll find the clip where I said it. I know where it is. I know how to find it. That's the thing, is Josh Allen is playing to my expectations. And is that kind of crazy that I'd expect something of him like that while it also being tremendous, because this is the first time that it's ever happened, not just in our lifetimes, Jeff. This is the first time the Bills have had this kind of quarterback play in like 30 years. 30 years. And if he can keep it on a consistent basis, if this is a weekly trend, Josh Allen taking the game, owning the game, running the game, and Josh Allen it's his game. That's what he's going to do. That's what he's going to play. If I continuously see that coinciding with minutes, I'm sorry. I'm just going to stay right where I'm at. And I'll keep saying I'll see you in week 12. See, you're warming up to it. You warming up to it. You said
no,
4
I'm
weeks.
about to offer my rebuttal.
4 weeks. 4 weeks. I will give you week 7. Week 7. I want a definitive decision. And maybe I'll have one at that point too if he's
Josh Allen is an MVP candidate or not.
I want you to tell me if he'll be in the top 3. That's what
top
we're going
3. I mean, he could
top
have
3.
the season of his life and not be as good as Mahomes, Russell Wilson, and Lamar Jackson, or anybody else.
Let me ask you this question because you bring that up, and it reminds me of a thought that I had. And I'm not sure if I had this conversation with you, so I apologize if I did. Do you think that 4 touchdowns, 0 interception, 417-yard performance from Sunday, we've seen the best that Josh Allen has to offer? Not in terms of quality of opponents. I mean statistical performance peak. Do you think that is the best we will get from Josh Allen in his career?
In his career, no. I think he'll throw for 400 yards again. I mean, it's just inevitable if he keeps progressing the way he has. I think statistically that might be his best performance this year. It's really hard to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. It's really hard to do it. You got to throw the ball a ton, and you got to throw it well the whole game. But I don't think that's the best that he'll play all year. He played really well, but I'm not saying that he won't rise to the occasion against better teams. Again, not to go back to the better teams argument all the time, but Josh Allen is going to face better defenses, and he's going to be faced with a bunch of different looks from quality players in his face, quality secondaries. And so I think that if we're talking the objective best that he's played statistically, I don't know if he'll throw for 400 yards again, but I think he might have a better performance than he did Sunday, and he might make plays that are more pivotal to the Bills winning than he did Sunday. Because if you're playing the Seattle Seahawks, or you're playing even the New England Patriots defense, I know what happened to them Sunday night, or if you're playing the Kansas City Chiefs, you have to be a hell of a lot better than you have to be against the Dolphins if you're Josh Allen, because of who you're playing against. And that's really where he's going to prove it. And so that's why I say give him 4 more weeks. I think that's a very fair timeline. You're playing a good Rams team this weekend that even if they don't have a good defensive performance, they've been putting up points the first 2 games this season. Their offense has been tremendous, and we'll get into that. So you might have to outscore them, and that is what would make it Josh Allen's best performance, in my opinion. So will he throw for 400 yards again? Maybe, maybe not. In his career, I think yes. This season, I don't know. But as far as just the wow factor and him making huge plays that are going to make the Buffalo Bills win football games, no, I don't think this is his best performance. I think that he has more in store, and he's going to have a better performance this year.
Yeah, I don't know. Because after that game, I kind of felt like that wasn't the best performance we'll see from Josh Allen, not just this season. Well, not just in his career, but is in this season in its entirety. Because I don't know. I just got a feeling about it. And, I've kind of been trusting my gut a lot more lately. And I'm not going to say that it's really panned out good or bad for me just yet, because I don't know just yet. But all I will say is time will tell. We'll see. And hey, I'm still standing strong with this MVP talk. I'm still standing strong. I've been talking about it for a long time. I've been talking about it over a year now. Over a year. Behind closed doors, I've been talking about it for over a year. You have any clue how much convincing it takes when a kid is a Bills fan and he and team sucks, and then they have a really good season, and he still says the team sucks? You have any clue how hard it is to admit to him that Josh Allen could be an MVP quarterback? I get laughed out of rooms because of that statement. I get laughed out of rooms by family members because of that statement. So yeah, that flag is long planted, and it's staying right where it's at. But you alluded to their week 3 matchup this week against the Los Angeles Rams. And you're right. This will be a larger test than the Bills typically have had in the first 2 weeks of the season. I feel like they're kind of just going up. The Jets, yeah, you're only going to find 1 or 2 teams in the league that are worse than the Jets. And then you move up to the Dolphins, who are slightly more talented than the Jets, but still lacking in some area of football team. They're on the rise. They're a team that has an upward trajectory, but they're still just hanging out in the bottom half of the AFC East right now. And then you got to play the LA Rams. And like you said, the LA Rams have been lighting it up this season. You're talking about this Rams offense through 2 weeks. This looks like the Rams offense that went to the Super Bowl, Jeff.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
This looks like the Rams offense that went to the Super Bowl with peak Todd Gurley. Well, I mean, peak Todd Gurley in the first half of the season. You're talking about this offense putting up 6.3 yards per play. That's a first down every other play. It's a first down every other play. And these young running backs, their running backs did suffer some injuries. Cam Akers went down with a rib cartilage injury against the Eagles last week. Sean McVay said he is day-to-day. And they also lost running back Malcolm Brown, who broke his pinky. He just got that fixed today. And he'll have split it up, and he'll be good to go against the Bills. So their backfield is going to consist of Darrell Henderson, who had a hell of a performance against the Eagles last week, over 100 yards. Darrell Henderson, as well as their lead back going into the season, Malcolm Brown. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this Bills defense plays Sean McVay's offense and what he decides to do, whether it be to be to the aggressor or whether it be to sit back and let his offense come to him. It's going to be interesting to see what he decides to do and what his method of madness is as far as attacking that offense is.
Yeah, and we know about all the passing weapons that the Rams have, and that's going to be a test to the depth of the Buffalo secondary. I mean, Trey White can only cover one receiver. I think we're going to see Trey on Robert Woods some, and I think we're going to see him on Cooper Kupp some of the time. But really, guys like Levi Wallace and other guys who are coming in to take snaps at the secondary are going to have to step up. They're going to have to make big plays because the Rams could hurt you in so many ways. And we talked about the mismatch that Dolphins tight end Matt Gesicki made against the Bills because of the absence of Tremaine Edmunds and Matt Milano. Well, you've got Tyler Higbee, a hell of a NFL tight end, coming in to Buffalo this week, and you're going to see the exact same thing. If I'm calling plays for the Rams, I'm looking at that Dolphins film, and I'm seeing what Gesicki did, and I'm attacking that 100%. Run him in crossing routes, run him on flies going down the field. Gesicki absolutely tore the Bills' defense up with big plays, and if Milano and Edmonds are out again, which we don't know right now being Tuesday night, it's going to be a problem, and it's going to be even more so on the Bills secondary. And some of those guys not named Trey White are going to have to step up and make plays. And for us right now, it's really just a waiting game to see if those guys play.
People won't like it when I say this. They really won't like it when I say this. But if both of them, Matt Milano and Tremaine Edmunds are out in this game, the Bills lose. Hands down. Without a question in my mind. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. It's not a matter of Josh Allen can't keep up with that offense. It's a matter of that defense won't be able to keep up with that offense. Like you just said, Jeff, Tyler Higbee was a nightmare last week for the Eagles. Nightmare. Absolute nightmare. What do you think he will be for this Bills defense if you don't have your two guys in the middle, your mismatch eraser with Tremaine Edmunds, and then Matt Milano, who's one of the best coverage linebackers in the league, in my opinion? That is problematic. It is a recipe for disaster for that Bills defense if those two are out. However, the good news is I kind of felt like, I can't really say to any extent. I'm no doctor. I'm no trainer. I haven't looked at these injuries. I wouldn't say that. I haven't physically looked at their injuries, like on the human beings. I have not looked at them. But a part of me did feel like they kept those two out against the Dolphins because they felt like that game wasn't as substantial or wasn't as good of a, I wouldn't say, it wasn't as quality of an opponent as the Los Angeles Rams. And now you got to play the LA Rams. You're talking about players like, coming into this game. So last week when those 2 weeks ago now, when those players went down, you had players like Cam Akers that you had to have a plan for. You had players like Darrell Henderson and Malcolm Brown. And obviously injury has taken Cam Akers out, but you still have Tyler Higbee. You still have Robert Woods. You still have Cooper Kupp. Those are a lot of targets. Those are a lot of weapons. That is a damn good offense. Damn good offense. But if you're asking me, going into this game, facing up against an offense like that, I want to neutralize that run game. The first thing that I take away from this Rams offense is their run game with Darrell Henderson, who's going to be the lead back with Malcolm Brown kind of with a splinted pinky. So if you're asking me, you need to neutralize their run game. Jared Goff, while not passing out of play action, is nowhere near the same quarterback as Jared Goff while passing out of play action. That is their bread and butter. That is what they do to make this offense hum the way it has hummed these last 2 weeks. And if you're asking me, I don't think either of those defenses they played are nearly as good as the Bills' defense with Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano in the middle. Without them, I think they're comparable. I think those three defenses are comparable, yes. And that's simply because Levi Wallace is incapable of holding his weight on his side of the field. Incapable. I've drawn the line in the sand. Incapable. Does he have potential? Could he be a player? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that there was a visible difference without Milano and Edmonds on the field. I mean, I found myself sitting there watching the game, watching plays where I said, okay, if Matt Milano's in the game, he makes that play. And a lot of that is with the tight end attack of the Dolphins offense and now the Rams offense. It's just mismatches. You can't expect Levi Wallace to go out and cover Tyler Higbee this week. You can't expect Trey White to cover Tyler Higbee. It's just not going to work. Higbee's too big and he's too strong. And it was just so evident of how important those two are. And also something that we haven't even talked about and something that a lot of people don't even realize is the communication between the defensive coordinator and on the field. I mean, Edmonds is the guy with the green sticker on his helmet every week. He's the guy talking to people up in the booth and running the defense. And I don't have for you who that was this week, but it's a noticeable difference. If you have all training camp, you've got Edmonds in the middle there running your defense, and now you don't. Now, I agree with you that making the Rams offense one-dimensional is going to be extremely important because I think that if they are running the ball on you, you're going to have a really tough time not only stopping the play action, but stopping all the different looks that they can give to you with their receivers. I mean, do you call those guys triplets? Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, and Van Jackson, or is that his name? Jefferson. Van Jefferson. I mean, they're all.
I don't know how
they're all team-digit numbers. And they all can make plays. Mm-hmm. So making it one-dimensional is, I think, equally as important as slowing down the tight end attack. Make the receivers beat you. Don't get beat by the other dimensions of their offense because you're going to find yourself way behind.
Yeah, like you were saying, I wouldn't say necessarily make the receivers beat you. I want to see Jared Goff beat them. I want to see this Bills team get in. Yeah, that's implied. But I want to see this Bills offense get to a 2-possession lead. I want to see this defense hold their running game, sustain their running game, contain it. Because if you stop the running game and you force Jared Goff to beat you with his arm out of just straight shotgun, not taking any play action, if you force Jared Goff to beat you with his arm, you're putting this defense in a position to succeed, at least in my opinion, unless Levi Wallace is looking anything like he looked last week against Preston Williams. Because honestly, well, it's not even that much of a hard take, but Preston Williams isn't half the receiver, in my opinion, that Cooper Kupp is. That's no disrespect to Preston Williams. Cooper Kupp is one hell of a talent. That's the thing about Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. They can move those guys anywhere. They can play anywhere in that offense. Anywhere. Slot, outside, anywhere they want them to play, those two guys will play, and they are efficient in those positions. So that's really where my main concern lies is Levi Wallace. It doesn't matter if it's Van Jefferson. It doesn't matter if it's Cooper Kupp. It doesn't matter if it's Robert Woods. I don't care who it is. He could be covering the damn water boy for all I care. I'm worried about that matchup. That is the matchup that I'm watching. I'm not worried about what Trey White's doing against Robert Woods or whoever it is that he has to guard on a certain play. I'm worried about Levi Wallace's matchups this week, quite honestly. I think they're going to be doing they're going to be giving him a lot of safety help this week. And I really do hope that Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano are good to go for this game, because I think that is a huge factor. I wouldn't have said that the Bills are going to lose if they didn't have those two players for a reason. Like, those two are an intricate part of this defense. Huge. And I think everyone saw that. Everyone saw that last week. While Terrell Dotson held his weight, I think everyone saw the drop-off of this Bills defense, considering Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, he shredded them last year in Buffalo with those two players on the defense. Maybe it's a Ryan Fitzpatrick thing. Who knows? But I think you need to make Jared Goff beat you with his arm. Make Jared Goff beat you with his arm. Have those guys trailing. See what this offense is like when you get them flustered, when you get them out of sync, when you force them to do something that isn't derivative of their run game. I want to see what the offense can produce at that point against this Bills defense, rather than keeping them in the game. It's still a game with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Don't get me wrong. I want to see a football game against the Buffalo Bills this season, but I feel like if you're playing that kind of game, you're playing into their hand. You need to get a 2-possession lead on this team, and you can't let your foot off the gas, and you need to stop the run game right from the start, or it's going to be a really long day if you don't have your two linebackers.
If you're Buffalo, would you rather be in a shootout with the Rams, or would you rather be in a defensive battle with the Rams?
That's a tough question. That is a tough question. I'll say I'd rather be in an offensive shootout.
Yeah.
See, that's a tough question. I don't even know if I'd want to be in an offensive shootout.
Well, and that's something that a year ago we wouldn't have even thought we'd be saying. We wouldn't even thought we'd be saying a year ago, with how well the Bills defense has been since the start of last year, and how mediocrely poor the Bills offense was for a lot of last year. I mean, that's not even a conversation we thought we'd be saying. It'd be the opposite. But I don't know. I mean, we'll turn this around now. How would the Bills beat the Rams defense? I mean, the big thing that we're all looking at is Aaron Donald. I mean, his ability, his impact on the game goes without saying. And the first way to control him is through your offensive line. And also the play calling. If Dable can get creative, confuse the Los Angeles pass rushers, then that is one way to slow down Donald, because let's face it, he's going to have an impact on the game. He's the best defensive player in the NFL. Now, if you can't do it with your linemen, that's where Josh Allen's legs come into play. And we've had this conversation before of, do you call the game differently every week based on your opponent, of using how much you utilize Allen's legs every week? Now, I don't think that this is a game where you call a bunch of designed runs for Allen because of the Rams' pass rushing ability. However, his escapability in this game is going to be huge. The Rams are going to get pressure on Allen. He's going to have guys in his face, and his ability to escape, and if you run play action bootlegs with him, get him out of the pocket where he can get away from those pass rushers, such as Aaron Donald, such as Michael Brockers, such as maybe even a Sebastian Joseph Day coming from the inside. That is where he can really be dangerous with his legs. And I think that if you're going to beat the Rams defense, you're going to have to not get negative plays. Don't allow them to sack the quarterback. Don't allow them to push you back. Stay moving forward, because I think the Bills offense has shown that it doesn't matter how porous or non-porous a defense is, that passing attack is something. It's deadly with the weapons you have. And I think that they're going to be able to move the ball. Regardless, just keep moving forward. I mean, what say you? What do you think that the key is to attack the Rams defense?
Like you said, Aaron Donald is the biggest piece of that defense. You can't forget the guy they just gave over $20 million per season, Jalen Ramsey, on the outside. Oof, was that a bad contract? I feel like it was you that said that to me, is that once Jalen Ramsey signs for $20 million, we'll be looking at the Tre'Davious White deal and just laughing about it. And that's exactly what we're doing. Because Jalen Ramsey is he's a whole tier below Tre'Davious White, in my opinion. And he's making what, $4 million more per season? $4 million more? My goodness. But I think the key against this Rams defense, They lost Corey Littleton in the middle there. I think that's really their soft spot is linebacker because they have 2 solid safeties with John Johnson III as well as Taylor Rapp. I feel like Brown is going to have some opportunities against Troy Hill on the opposite boundary, assuming that Jalen Ramsey is going to be shadowing Stephon Diggs. And is that really a matchup I'd shy away from? Not necessarily. Jalen Ramsey is a solid corner in his own right. Don't get me wrong. But watching Stephon Diggs these last couple of games really has kind of just showed me how good of a talent he is, how extraordinary of a talent he is. His ability to separate just with his feet, just with his quickness. It's extraordinary. And I think that's going to be a real battle this Sunday. I think that's going to be one that you really want to watch, that you're just going to, that's going to be a fun matchup to watch Jalen Ramsey going up against Stephon Diggs. And honestly, I don't know who I'd give the upper hand in that battle. I'd say it's Stephon Diggs personally, because I feel like Stephon Diggs is in the upper echelon of wide receivers in this league. But I also believe that they're both in kind of the same tier of their own position groups, if that makes sense. I still believe that they're both like the tier below elite. And I think that's just so hard for me to say about Stephon Diggs after these consecutive performances. I want to see him be able to sustain it. I really do. And I think this is by far his toughest matchup thus far in a Bills uniform. And I'm really excited to see how he handles it. But I'm also really excited to see how Brian Daboll chooses to attack this Rams defense, because you have one of the defensive players, not just on that team or in that defensive line. You're playing against Aaron Donald. This dude has been bodying guys this season. He only has 1 sack so far. So he's putting up gaudy sack numbers. But don't tell me about his 1 sack and how he's not impacting games when I'm watching him throw professional all-pro offensive linemen for the Dallas Cowboys 4 yards to the left. That dude, I almost swore, that dude's an animal. He is an animal. Aaron Donald's the best defensive lineman in football, period. I don't care what anybody has to say. Aaron Donald, if you can contain Aaron Donald, it's not even going to be as simple as running away from him either, because this dude's a factor, weak side, strong side, no matter what side. It doesn't matter what side. That's Aaron Donald's side. That is Aaron Donald's side. So guess what? He's going to be a factor in this game. I'm really excited to see what this Bills offense chooses to do to attack him or avoid him, or what Bobby Johnson has in mind. I think this is the biggest matchup against the pass rusher that Bobby Johnson has had since he was hired by the Bills. I'm excited to see what he can do with this really talented group up front in front of Josh Allen to not only protect the quarterback, but also maintain an efficient rushing attack. I think I don't have necessarily a preference of how they should attack him or what they should do, but I'm really excited to see what this offensive coordinator and what this offensive line coach cook up to try and neutralize the impact of Aaron Donald on this offense.
I think that Brian Daboll is going to come out with a package or two that we have not seen before, because he hasn't had to pull all the strings in the first 2 games. The Bills offense has been clicking in the first 2 games. So I think that Daboll's got some more packages that we haven't seen yet, waiting in the wings that he's going to pull out if he needs to against this Rams defense. Now, another thing I'll say is it appears as though the Rams run a lot of quick slants or quick passes to get their speedy receivers out in the open, where you got a guy like Kupp laying a crack block with Woods coming around to the outside, getting him upfield, and they get their quick receivers in space a lot. Now, of course, they can throw the ball down the field with the receivers they have, but they go short a lot, and I wouldn't be surprised if the Bills try to do that if the pass rush is being impactful. I mean, you've got the weapons to do that. Cole Beasley is so versatile that he's a guy you can get the ball in his hands after a 3-step drop, and he can go make plays, let alone Brown and Diggs doing that. So that could be a chapter to the Bills offense. We haven't really seen that much. Or also whether that's getting your running backs involved in the passing game. I think that Singletary and Moss can both do that. So there's a lot that you can do if you're the Bills offense. And my comment on the Bills versus Ramsey, or the Diggs versus Ramsey matchup, it's hard to bet against Stephon Diggs right now after how well he's been playing. I mean, he's been everywhere. It's hard to bet against him. And at the least, he's going to take all of that attention away from John Brown, who I think is one of the best wide receiver 2s in the NFL, and also Cole Beasley, who is a hell of a wide receiver 3 for the Buffalo Bills.
I think the middle of that Rams defense is up for a tall task this week. The same concerns I have for the Bills defense going up against that Rams offense with their situation at middle linebacker or at linebacker in the middle of their defense, those can also be placed on the Rams defense. Because I feel like that middle area of the field, the short 5 to 7 yards, that area is open. That area, they have a weakness. And in that area, you're going to see players like Cole Beasley thrive. You're going to see players like Dawson Knox, hoping that he makes it to this game. He is in concussion protocol. He suffered a concussion against the Dolphins last week. Players like Knox, I think this is an opportunity for those kinds of players to thrive. This is the kind of game where you poke that one out on the calendar and you say, this is our matchup. Stop it. Stop it. So let's see you stop it. And I will say that my X factor to victory on the Bills offensive side of the ball is like you've been raving about, Cole Beasley in the slot. I think this is the game that I need to see Josh Allen hit those short passes consecutively, hit them consistently, hit them throughout the duration of the whole entire game. When they asked him to be surgical with the football against the New York Jets, he threw it a 72% clip. You're going against a much better defense in this case, with all things considered, with Aaron Donald. But to be quite honest with you, aside from Aaron Donald, aside from Jalen Ramsey, and aside from their safety pairing, and maybe Leonard Floyd, I'm not overly impressed by this Rams defense. I'm not overly intimidated by this Rams defense. But they do have key components in key places. Aaron Donald's going to make the entire defense better. Do you even know who Samson Mbukam is? You ever heard that name, Jeff?
He's on the depth chart here.
He's on the depth chart. Yeah, he's on the depth chart. He's one of their outside linebackers. He's an edge rusher for that team. So, yeah, I'm not really worried about that guy. I'm not worried about Micah Kaiser. I'm just not worried about this Rams defense aside from Aaron Donald. And that's a very big, aside. That's a very, very big one. If you can contain Aaron, you can prevent Aaron Donald from wrecking your game plan and you're able to sustain drives, you're able to sustain your series on third downs, and you're able to convert, I think that you're putting this offense in a position to succeed. You neutralize Aaron Donald. I'm not necessarily worried about Jalen Ramsey on the outside. And I do kind of feel like if Josh Allen is what he's looked like these last 2 weeks, and I'll say it again, an MVP quarterback, if he is that guy, then he will have a game against this defense, and he will not have a problem against this defense. I expect a big game from Cole Beasley and John Brown this week. Both 5+ catches and both over 85 yards receiving.
Yeah, my key to the game on the offensive side is similar to yours. Mine is John Brown. We haven't seen John Brown in the spotlight yet this year because of Stephon Diggs. And now Diggs is going against one of the best corners in the league. It opens up some space for John Brown to make plays. Now, it does Beasley too, as you said, but we saw John Brown shine in several games last year. He hasn't had to be that guy yet this year, but that doesn't mean his ability to do so is gone. And so I think that John Brown could have a really big game this week if Diggs doesn't. And I've said this a number of times now, the depth of your receiving core is so important because you don't have one guy to run all your big routes, make it or break it. You have a couple options that you can go to. And so I think that this could be a game where Brown could step up where Diggs left off. And it would be a really cool thing to see week to week if the Bills are having different receivers have big games every week. If you have Diggs has a big game this week, Brown has a big game the next week, and then back to Diggs and then the Beasley. That would be a really cool thing to see. And if that happens, it'll also be a compliment to Josh Allen. The Allen's getting the ball to different receivers and spreading it around and making the offense so much more deadly than it is if it's one-faceted.
Yeah, I think that's another large key to victory in this game is Josh Allen being able to get that ball out quick. You know, you kind of said it with if that pass rush is affecting him, if Aaron Donald's affecting him, boom, like that. You know, Aaron Donald plays along the interior. That's the most dangerous position in football if you're a dynamite player like him. So I think that if Aaron Donald is a factor and is as large of a chip factor as he typically is on a given week, Josh Allen needs to get the ball out faster than he typically does. And running those shorter routes to Brown, to Beasley. Hey, Diggs if you want to. I'll take that matchup every day as well. So I think that is a huge part of this game. Josh Allen needs to get that ball out on time. I think the Bills do need to establish a rushing attack in this game. I want to see them run the ball throughout the duration of the whole game. Could Aaron Donald make this Bills offense have other plans? I think so. But Michael Brockers, he's okay. Michael Brockers is okay along the interior. But I do think the Bills, aside from Aaron Donald, I think the Bills have mismatches across the board. But Aaron Donald's going to have to – you're going to have to give two guys to Aaron Donald as it is. So that's what makes the matching up against this Rams front so kind of difficult and interesting, because you kind of just have to pick your poison, essentially. You're either putting two guys on Aaron Donald. I'm not blocking him with one dude. I don't think there's a single one guy that could block Aaron Donald in the whole league. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what they decide to do against Aaron Donald. With that being said, we got to get into predictions, Jeff. The first edition of live predictions. So let me break this down for people that are first-time viewers. What Jeff and I do, and this is this is kind of new. There's a little wiggle in here that's kind of new. What we do is not only do we pick the Bills game, we pick five games, including the Bills game. We're going to pick all three of the divisional opponents this week: Miami, England, and the Jets. We're also going to pick Kansas City visiting the Ravens. That's right? Kansas City's going to Baltimore?
Yep.
No, I'm kidding. I do that. Anyways, so we're picking the Bills' divisional opponents and the Chiefs going to Baltimore. But first and foremost, we have to start off with the Bills matchup playing the Rams. Jeff, who do you got?
Well, before I make my prediction, I wanted to address Carmen's comment there that they think Diggs can beat anybody. Like I said, it's hard to bet against Stephon Diggs right now. Diggs is just on fire, and he's been so good and so valuable to the Bills. And against a great corner like Ramsey, it's going to be harder. But I think he can do it. I agree with you. I think he can beat anybody right now. But just the availability of John Brown and Cole Beasley just being such great secondary options just makes the offense so deadly in so many ways. As I pick the game, it really is so important for Edmonds and Milano to play in this game. It's so important because if it was that obvious against the Miami offense that they weren't in the game and the impact that made on the Bills' defensive performance, it's going to be even more obvious against this great Rams offense that, like we've said, has been clicking on all cylinders. So I think that if those two don't play, which again, we don't know right now, it's going to be an uphill climb for the Buffalo defense, and guys are going to have to step up like they did last week, and the offense is going to have to step up as well. I think this is going to be a close game whether they play or not. I think it's going to be a one possession game either way. These teams have both played really well this year, and I believe this is the only matchup of 2-0 teams this week, which is an interesting side note. The Bills are at home. They've got a lot of momentum. I think they rise to the occasion. They get in the end zone 4 times. Allen with another big game. I think he's due to turn the ball over, maybe throw an interception. I don't know if that'll be a big change that'll change the tide of the game or not, but I think that he's due for that. But I think Allen will have another big game. The Bills score 28, and the Buffalo defense holds the Rams off enough to hold them to 25, and the Bills win by a field goal.
28-25. The last time the Rams went to Buffalo, I feel like Sam Bradford was the starter. Am I right?
I don't remember.
That was Sam Bradford's last season in Buffalo.
They were definitely wearing navy blue.
And the Bills were definitely wearing throwback uniforms. Somebody in the comments the Bills were definitely wearing those throwback uniforms. I love those throwback uniforms. I hope they whip them out this week. People probably already know what they're wearing. People watch everything. But
everyone's wearing white at home now.
This is an interesting. I don't mind it. When I was a kid, football was really the only thing for me. Football was all I watched, all I cared about, all it was. That was it. I didn't care about baseball. I didn't care about hockey. I didn't care about basketball. And that's the weird thing is football was the only sport that had colored jerseys at home. So kids were always just like, I hate the colored jerseys at home. And I'm just like, why? Why would you hate that? It's like, it's the only sport that does it. And I'm just like, so what? But I think just having good uniforms to begin with makes me a little more indifferent on that decision on what I'm like, oh shit, they're wearing blue, or Oh, shit, they're wearing white. The Bills uniforms look good either way. It does not matter what uniform they go out there in, as long as it's not the drought era uniforms. Those uniforms were caught.
Or, as you know me, as long as it's not the red, I don't like the red. Everybody loves the red.
You don't like the red?
No, I don't like the red. I just think it looks bad. I mean, that's definitely an unpopular opinion. I don't like the red on red. I think that the navy blue looks the royal blue looks so sharp that you can't waste a game where you could be wearing royal blue and wear red. It's just not my thing. Personal preference.
I feel like your opinion would change if they wore red with white helmet or white face masks. I feel like your opinion would change because I've done it in Madden and it looks a lot better.
It's a minuscule part of the uniform. Maybe
it's not minuscule. Did you see the big difference it made against the Cowboys? Come on.
Yeah.
Why does everyone think it's minuscule? Great.
Okay, it's more minuscule when your pants and your jersey are the same color. Yes.
Okay. What about blue on blue?
In the comments saying that they don't like red. Red is just.
What about blue on blue?
I'll take blue on blue. I like anything but red, really.
Okay. All right. I feel you. Well, you and I have had discussion about uniforms and whatnot. Last week it was the weather. This week it's uniforms. What's next week? We got to have something to talk about. It's not like the Bills have a game or anything. I'm just kidding. But my pick this week, I'm going to take the Bills. Like I said earlier in the show, I don't think they win this game if Milano and Edmonds suit up. If neither of those two suit up, I don't think they win. And when I say I don't think they win this game, I mean it's going to be one of those, I'll say 34-20 matchups if Milano and Edmonds aren't in this game. Now, if they are, you can kind of pick on me in my differences here in scores. I feel like the Bills have a solid day. I feel like their defense has a solid day. I feel like they bounced back from their lackluster performance in Miami a week ago. And I think Josh Allen keeps doing the things that Josh Allen has been doing because, I think Diggs can beat anybody. Just like Cameron Pagano said, Diggs can beat anybody. Josh Allen always has a matchup when he has Stephon Diggs on the field, in my opinion. So, hey, I think this is a good week for the Bills offense if both of those linebackers play. I think it's an overall great game for the Bills. I'm going to take the Bills 34-27.
It's fair. It's a lot of points. A lot of points on both sides, but yeah.
I like football. I like points. I do not like boring football games, Jeff. And a boring football game, speaking of a boring football game, who hell in America is going to watch this? Miami and Jacksonville on Thursday night. Our first random prediction. By the way the point system works is each game is worth 1 point in its entirety, meaning if the Bills beat the Rams this week, Jeff and I both get a point. However, both scores are worth 2 points each. That means there's a total of 5 points that you can have from one game. Jeff got 5 points off of that 49ers game last week, and he's really stretched out a lead on me. It's 9 points to 5 to start this season. I really need to get one of these games right. So let's start off with Miami visiting the Jaguars, an ultimate rock fest. Let's go.
I don't know. Whatever. I'm not going to watch this game. Dolphins will win. I think Fitzpatrick squeaks out a win. He played pretty well on Sunday. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt going forward. Dolphins 31, Jags 27.
The Coleman Bowl. That's awesome.
That's funny.
That's awesome. I agree with you. I think the Dolphins are going to win. The Jaguars are 2.5-point favorites. I'm sorry. Carmen, thank you. That was funny. That was really funny. Goodness. I think the Dolphins are going to win. I don't think this is an entertaining game. I do think Fitzpatrick puts up some points, but not a lot. I'm going to say Dolphins. Jaguars 2.5 favorites. So I'm going to take the underdog here. I'm going to say Miami's going to win this one 27-17. So the next one down the line is we have the Las Vegas Raiders, who had a really impressive victory last night over the New Orleans Saints, or maybe the Saints are falling off. Maybe. That was a problem for me. I had the Saints defense in fantasy, so that was great. The Raiders are visiting the Patriots, who are 6-point favorites in this game. Jeff, what do you got?
This is a tough one because of how well the Raiders played last night. I think that they really opened some eyes. I think of this game as maybe a game last year where Buffalo beat a good team and kind of open some eyes around the league. I know it's really early in the season, but the Raiders played really well. I mean, they beat a Saints team that beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, who we know how much better they are this year than they have been. Your mind thinks, oh, the Raiders going to keep going, get some momentum, win this game. But the Patriots played the Seahawks really tough. And so that's why this is a really tough matchup for me. I think the Raiders having to go from West Coast to East is tough. And I think the Patriots hit a last second field goal to win at 20-17. I don't think the Patriots are going to go down to 1-2 after the performance that they had on Sunday Night Football. I mean, they played really well. They almost won that game, and so I think that it would be unfair to them if I thought they would be down to 1-2. I think they're going to find a way to win this game.
Yeah, that's understandable. I think the 6 point, I don't think the Patriots are 6 point favorites in this game. I just don't. I don't like the spread. I really don't like the spread. I think Vegas is a better football team than that. I don't think, you talk about the Saints. I think the Saints are a talented bunch. I think the Saints are one of the most talented teams in the league. And to see what the Raiders did to them last night, to have a 6 point spread is almost embarrassing. I almost kind of think that I got the wrong spread when saying that. I kind of feel like I did when it's 6 points. That should not be 6 points. But you know what? I need to start pulling away. I need to get something back. So I'm going to take the Raiders. I'm going to take the Raiders, and I'm going to take them winning 24-20.
So if the Patriots get 20, though, then I mean we both get 2 points.
I don't care. I still get the other points.
You do. You do.
27-20. Okay. Sorry, I had to write that down. So now we have the New York Jets, who it was funny. 10.5 point favorites, the Indianapolis Colts, as the Jets go to Indianapolis. 10.5 point favorites are the Colts. Jeff, what do you got?
It's embarrassing. I saw 11 today. It's embarrassing to be that far underdogs in an NFL game. Colts 21, Jets 9. Sam Darnold doesn't figure out where the end zone is this week. 21-9.
Ooh, okay. All right. I'm going to take it a notch above you. I'm going to say 27-6. 27-6 Colts. I don't think are the Jets going to win a game this year? I don't know. I don't really care. I hope not. They suck. Chiefs at Baltimore. Big game next Monday night. I'm so looking forward to this game. This is going to be a fun game to watch. Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. What do you got, Jeff? Do you think this is a big game? Do you think there's a lot of points? Do you think there's a lot of yards? Or do you think it's one side?
Sunday night football. No, this is Monday Night Football, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Monday Night Football.
Yeah, Monday Night Football with one of the best games they've had on there for a while. I mean, matchup-wise, coming into it. There's a lot of good games this week. Dallas plays Seattle at 4:30 on Sunday. Sunday Night Football, I believe, is Saints-Packers. And then you got this on Monday night. So a lot of good slates. I think Mahomes is just a little too good right now, as he has been. Chiefs win by a possession. I think there will be a fair amount of points in this game. I'm going to take the Chiefs 31-24. And I don't think that they're going to need a last minute touchdown drive, though. I think that they'll be up by 2 scores. Maybe the Ravens will pull close, but I think it'll be a 7-point game. So 31-24 Chiefs.
So here's the thing about this game, because I had the same feeling about last week as the Ravens to play the Texans. And don't get me wrong, those aren't the same football teams as the Chiefs. But what I will say is that I know that the Ravens defense is way better than the Chiefs. Way better. Incomparably better. And that's kind of what makes me favor them in this game. That kind of makes me want to pick Baltimore again. And you and I had this discussion last week. I said that Baltimore was going to kind of run away with that Houston game, and they kind of did. And I'm really pissed that I was just like 3 points off the score, or 4 points off the score I said that they were going to have. And I was like 2 points off of what the Texans had. So pissed.
Yeah, I picked Houston, didn't I?
So pissed. You and I would be neck and neck right now if I had 4 different points. Like 4 points. That's the total. That's the total from both scores. 4 points. You and I would be neck and neck right now if I had that game right. I got to go Baltimore winning this game. We're going to say 33-23. I'm going to have Baltimore winning this game by 10. I just think they're the best team in football. And it's mainly because of that defense. It's mainly because Not only do they have Lamar Jackson, they have all the bells and whistles on the offensive side of the ball with the rushing attack and Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. They also have a very good defense, a damn good defense. So we will see. What was that?
No, I just said, yeah, they do. I
I'm
agree with you.
So, hey, time will tell. We will see. I want to thank everybody for tuning into this show tonight. It's been a weird ride. It really has. You know, from the start of this podcast, the inception of this podcast, I don't know. When did I text you, Jeff? Last August or something? It was pretty much
last July, something like that.
It was like, I need a podcast host. I got everything set up. You want to just grab this mic and we'll talk about it? And here we are on the Cold Front Report Facebook page, YouTube page, and Twitter account via Periscope. It's been a big rise for us, Jeff, and it's been a lot of fun along the way. Are there any parting words here at the end of the show you'd like to say?
No, just thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This is my first live broadcast with Cold Front Report, and it went tremendously. I had a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we get to do this every week because it's going to be a lot of fun to talk about the Bills over the next few months, and looking forward to all of you guys being along with us for the ride on the rest of the season. So thanks.
Oh, yeah. It's a marathon. Guys, please do not forget that Jeremy Turner Montgomery is going live with former Bills linebacker Lorenzo Alexander on the Pressure Front podcast Thursday night, 9:30, right here on the Cold Front Report. The only place you can get, honestly, some of the best football insight that I have heard from anybody. I don't care who. I'm not going there, but Lorenzo Alexander is probably one of the most intelligent people when talking about the game of football I've ever heard in my life. You know, hearing him talk about the way this locker room is ran, the way the leaders are the way the leaders lead, all the intricate things about football that Lorenzo Alexander, from his many years of experience, understands and can explain to all of Bills Mafia. And he can only explain them on one place, the Cold Front Report. So while you're at it, be sure to follow the Cold Front Report on Twitter at Cold Front Report, on Instagram, Cold Front Report _Bills News, as well as Facebook, Cold Front Report Buffalo Bills News. If you'd like to find me, you can find me on Twitter right here at CFR Clayton. If you'd like to find me on Instagram, it's the same exact handle. I understand I didn't let Jeff say his typical ending. You can find him on Twitter on his handle at oh my God, I got to get used to that reverse camera. That was an awful point. At RealJUvino for Jeff Uvino. You can find him on Instagram as well with just his name at Jeff Uvino. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. And this has been the Overtime Podcast presented by the Cold Front Report.